Welcome, everyone. I'm here today with Ross Rotherham. Thank you so much for joining me, Ross.
Yeah, great to be here, Amy. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. I was really looking forward to jumping on and just delving into a bit of your business journey and your story of how you came to do the work that you're doing now. And for those of you that are just coming across Ross for the first time, Ross works with technology leaders and he really helps them to develop their strengths. So he's a workshop facilitator for teams. He's a strengths coach, a leadership coach, and a wellbeing coach. He's been working in the technology space for over 20 years now, Ross, and 14 years of those, I believe, were in leadership roles. And, you know, you haven't stayed in the one place. You've worked around the globe. So New York, India, Singapore, Japan, China. I mean, the list can go on, but you've traveled quite a bit and you've got some really in-depth experience with technology companies and leaders. So, yeah, really looking forward to sharing more today.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the intro. I feel like we could just drop the mic right here.
That's it. Mic drop moment. Tell me how it all started for you, because you do have a really strong background in the technology industry. So I guess, how did you first sort of stumble into that industry? And tell me a little bit more around the start of your career journey and then now how that's moved into actually running your own business.
Sure. And there's actually a preceding career as well, which was in complementary medicine. And that wasn't so important when I was in technology, but now that I've come into coaching and facilitation, the technology roles and the complementary medicine roles really merge together. So I spent time mostly in New York. We were working in medical centers, in integrative medical centers, and I probably did, 7,000 one-on-one clinical sessions in that time. And that really gave me the opportunity to really go deep on the human condition and get to work really closely with individuals. And I love that work. And while I was there, my wife was in the same field. I switched into technology just for like future-proofing our financial life, I guess. And so I moved into technology and spent 20 years in there. So I worked in startups in New York and Europe, which was awesome. And then back in Australia, worked in a large American corporate technology company. And yes, did leadership for a lot of that. So I ran teams all across Asia. And through that, I mean, the tech was always fascinating, but the thing that I came to understand about myself was I loved developing people. And towards the end of my time there, I met Clifton Strengths and we rolled out Clifton Strengths globally within that organization. And it really resonated. It's such a great framework. And my top strength is individualization. And with that, it's a fascination with the uniqueness of others, right? And so I delved into that pretty heavily and got certified. And then I had a redundancy. And so I went from 11 years in a job that I loved to suddenly, what do I do next? And by the end of the day, I'm going to go into coaching and facilitation. I'll give it a year and see how it goes. And it's just been a great journey so far.
Fantastic. And what was that moment like for you? You know, you've made a couple of transitions in your career, you know, from the clinical space into the technology industry and then to be made redundant. What were you going through at that time?
I've always tended to look forward rather than back. And the day I got made redundant, I sent a message to my coach at the time and said, having that forward-looking thing it's a superpower today. Because the thing, like being made redundant, it was a big event. Don't get me wrong, it was a difficult and big event. But by the end of the day, it's right. Let's just move forward. And so I was very clearly creating a plan around that.
And what were those early days like in the business? So when you sort of decided, okay, I'm not going to head out there and look for another leadership role. I'm actually going to, head out there on my own, put myself out there, use my skills and experience that you'd built up over all of this time. I guess what sort of drove you to that decision and how were those early days like for you in the business?
So it's interesting, as you said, making the decision not to go for another leadership role. And as you said that, what came up was it actually was quite a long time that I fully made the commitment. And so I had this, my one foot in, I could always go for a leadership role if I wanted to.
Yeah.
And there was the moment that I was like, no, I'm 100% committed to this. A whole lot of doors started to open. And that was around about the time where we first met, actually, was right.
Yep.
I'm fully committed. I'm all in. But that experience has definitely helped a lot. The people I work with, I've sat in the seat that most of them are sitting in, right? Or some aspect of that. And although it's not about mentoring in the role, having that context really helps with, not needing to spend a whole lot of time understanding context about what they're doing, understanding how all the different pieces fit together in that type of environment.
Yeah, definitely really helps, I think, to bridge that gap as well. If you're heading out from a leadership position, like being in the same industry and being in the shoes of the people that you're now helping, it's just next level in terms of that relatability with the teams and the work that you're doing. So I'd love to hear a little bit more around like some of the work that you are doing with teams in the technology space. And you mentioned the strengths before. So how does that really help a team to develop? Like, what are some of the things that you've sort of noticed in the clients that you're working with in terms of when you first started working with them to now? What are some of the things that have really shifted for them?
So when I'm working with people, it's all about future positive, right? So how can we get them from where they are today to seeing their potential and really capturing that and leveraging it? And the strengths framework helps with that enormously, with just having a report that points out, here's a bunch of things that you're really good at. And often people are like, oh, I didn't realize that. That's actually a strength. So you can use that, and other people don't have that, right? But another piece of that, it's about being unique. And if you start with the concept of you're unique and these are the things you do great, it moves us forward a lot further than what it would take to organically understand that about them. When you extend that to teams, then having teams all do their strengths together, there's these fantastic aha moments, right? And it might be, oh, so this is how you think about that. So if I actually came to you and communicated it like this, or in this time frame, or this way, that would be helpful too. It's like, yeah, that'd be great, right? And so that the level of understanding, the collaboration, the communication, the productivity that comes from the team understanding how each other operate is fantastic. And one more quick comment on that. There's also a concept in here around blind spots. And that's super important to help people understand what it is that's holding them back. And it could be inner critic pieces or other types of blind spot behavior where they're acting in a way where their intention is understood differently by others. And so having a framework to be able to point that out objectively and clearly and help them overcome that and be aware of it is hugely impactful.
Yeah, I think that's awesome to focus really on the strengths and the positive side of things, because I think as humans, naturally, we can go to the negative and we can go, oh, I'm not good at this or I'm not good at that. And I know, in previous HR roles and recruitment roles I've had, one of the questions we'd always ask in interviews are, tell me about your biggest weaknesses. And it's always one of those things that's really hard, but it can even be harder for people to articulate their strengths and actually share, what they're good at. So I think having those insights from, a third party that can come in and actually see the blind spots and look at things from a different perspective and help people interpret that, I think is super powerful for teams. Because, in the world of leadership these days, like, we don't operate in a vacuum. We've got a whole bunch of different influences and things around us too. And so I just think the more information and the more data and the more resources you have about yourself as a leader and your team, it just puts you in a really good position to equip you to actually lead in the world that we're living in right now.
And there's an interesting data point from Gallup, who does an enormous amount of research on the strengths framework. The most impactful teams are not the ones that have the most even distribution of strengths. It's the ones that know and leverage the strengths of others within the team. And so it's that knowledge and using that knowledge that makes the difference, right?
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I think you can definitely see the passion that you have about the work that you do, which is awesome. So, was that like a natural sort of instinct for you that when you started your own business, like that was the avenue you wanted to take and that you wanted to work with technology companies? Or, I guess, when we first met and you're going through the process of really going all in and really launching and growing the business, what were some of those initial sort of maybe hurdles that you first came across making that transition from being in leadership roles yourself to then going out and helping other leaders?
Yeah, I think credibility was a big piece of it. And so early on for me, going through and getting certifications in things, awareness, and even awareness within my network of that now I'm doing something quite different. And so getting that awareness out there, communicating with the right people, being able to identify coaching is not for everybody, and the people who get it and understand the potential that it can create for them, and how much it can jump them forward, like being able to identify who fits in that world, and even quickly identify who doesn't, right, when you're not talking to people, and not that there's any judgment in that, it's just we're all at different places. Yeah, so there's a couple that come to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when you were first starting to work with people and you put yourself out there and you said, hey, I'm in business for myself now and this is what I'm doing, what was the reaction from, people that have known you, I guess, in a past life, a past career? What was the reaction from your network when you first sort of launched?
People have been super supportive, and the new network I've built within the coaching community is incredibly supportive. There's an abundance of work. There's more work than all of us could ever do with helping people progress, right? So that's been really good and not competitive. But the one thing that really stood out, I've sent a couple of thank you messages in the last month to a few key people where really early on I went to some quite senior people and said, can I please coach you? It would be helpful for me to understand how these skills operate within people at your level. And they were people who I've known for a long time and worked alongside. And they were really complimentary of you, like saying, you appear to have found the thing that really resonates with you, right? And that was uber encouraging early on of just, yes, I feel that way as well. And that if other people are noticing that, then yeah, it's not just all in my crazy head.
Yeah, I think it's really validating, right? Because I remember even, when I first went out on my own, and a lot of people that I speak to are looking to make that leap as well. And I think one of the things that is a worry on our minds is, what will people think of us? Will we, feel credible or be seen as credible enough out there? And can we do it? And all of those natural sort of human things come into play. So I think it's awesome that you've, put yourself out there and you've moved through it. And you're now in that space where you're fulfilled doing the work that you love, and you're really able to help those leaders to develop as well, which is awesome.
Yeah, and there's another piece to it, and I think this is very relevant for why we're talking today. But going out on your own in your own business, that like the coaching part that came quite naturally, and I think I've just the history of all that clinical work and so on, and developing people as a leader. There'd been a lot to get to that point of having that just be, something that I enjoy doing and comes quite well. But I hadn't necessarily considered all the other aspects of running your own business, and that I'm now wearing every hat. I'm the salesperson. I'm everything, and so your program has been super helpful with helping me bring all of that together in a functional way. So
brilliant. And I think that's true for a lot of people, right? We've got our area of expertise that we know and we love, and then we put a business on top of that, or we head out to our own business, and then we realize exactly what you said. Now I'm head of sales, now I'm head of marketing, head of operations, head of finance. Like, well, I haven't been in these roles before, or, you can kind of really, in it, and you do have to wear all the hats, particularly in the beginning, as you start to scale, you can bring on team and things like that as well. But it can feel quite confronting, if you've been very successful like you have in the corporate space and in other leadership roles, to then feel like a bit of a beginner again in certain aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's the true definition of CXO, right? Where you're every C-level role. And look, and I enjoy that. I quite enjoy all that. And going into business on my own was something I've always wanted to do. And I've pitched ideas over the years that have not really gotten any traction. So I'm super happy to be in there, and the autonomy and the flexibility that comes with it. But that doesn't mean there hasn't been some, emotional roller coaster moments along the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know like you're one of our aligned tribe members, and one of the things that we've worked on together and the team has worked on with you as well is around LinkedIn and starting to use LinkedIn as a way to generate business and actually be able to reach to the right ideal clients for you, and premium clients as well. Like you mentioned, not everyone's a fit. So it's working out, who are the people you really want to work with and who are the people that, we don't need to really be worrying about. So how has that had an impact on you, and what was sort of the biggest shift or biggest difference into maybe how you use LinkedIn now versus how you were using it in the past?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that the impact of working with you has gone quite a bit beyond just LinkedIn. But if we start with LinkedIn, brand clarity was where it started for me, right? And just being able to clearly articulate who I am, why I'm here, what my value proposition is. It's really important to me in this business to be authentic. A lot of what your program has provided, it's not cookie cutter, right? It's defining ways of positioning, but with an easy way for me to put my stamp on that. So it started with brand clarity, and part of that was niche and positioning as well. Then the next, and it was very clear steps for me, right? And it's been, the program runs in steps, but the outreach for the right clients, and I think I've got that running quite well now. Being able to identify who do I want to work with, who wants to work with me, and those pieces. So all of that's come together. But when I say it's been beyond LinkedIn, there's some other pieces of just the theme of focus on what matters, right? And that's come up in the context of LinkedIn outreach, all of that sort of stuff, but that pervades everywhere, right? There's been the aspect of scale. So identifying VAs, virtual assistants for support, identifying other different types of support. That's been one really super helpful attribute that came out of the program for me. Yeah, so they're the first things that come to mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said as well, like it is around making sure you've got the right message to market, your position in the right way, and making sure that it is authentic, right? Because I don't believe in really faking it till you make it. Some other people do, but I think we can only be ourselves, and if we back ourselves and we know we can deliver, then when you inject that sales and marketing piece around that, you're pretty unstoppable.
Yeah. So, and with that, there's when you sit with that message and for a while, like make it real in the branding in LinkedIn and so on, and see some results from it. There's a huge confidence boost of, people do resonate with what it is that I'm offering. And so that's great as well.
Yeah, awesome. And what have been some of the results for you when you think about from when you first started to now? Like what's changed for you?
So like in the first quarter after starting with Aligned Tribe, I had double my bookings, but double and close to target. And so that was huge. There's been an aspect of confidence in high value contracts as well. So the concept of discounting myself to get busy. I swept that away as part of the work together. And I think my way of working is still very high value for clients as well at the price point. And so that's been good, of the double bookings, confidence, high value contracts. They're the key things really that have come out.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and the last one would be, I see there's kind of some immediate impact, but the tools and techniques that I've taken on from that, I will take with me over the coming years and continue to develop them, right? I've got a number of things in pipeline that I'm developing at the moment around those concepts as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And what are you most excited about, Ross? Like, if we think about your business growth in the next 12 months, like, where do you want it to be? What are you most excited about moving forward?
Like, going back to starting my own business, autonomy, flexibility, authenticity, like those words come to mind, and impact as well. And so I'm excited about the impact that I can potentially make with clients and individuals and teams that I work with, right? And that needs to be there to drive my interest in the business. In terms from, so that's the why, right? Why am I doing this? From a business perspective, what am I excited about? I can see a path now where I'll replace my corporate income, and I'll do it without sitting on a plane 3 times a month, and probably, working 4 days a week. So there's the flexibility aspect of that is very attractive. And it will all be me, right? It will be something that I've personally achieved. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I love, hearing about the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making with teams as well. And like I said, I know the passion that you have for the work that you do as well. So if there's, a leader of a technology company right now that's listening to this, or that might have a team where they think that, getting everyone in a room and making sure they're all aligned with their strengths would be important for them, where can they contact you?
LinkedIn, clearly.
It's a trick question, Ross, and you passed. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, they can email me at coach@rossrotherham.com, but most of my presence and where they can see who I work with and some of the results and techniques and all of that is contained within LinkedIn, and I'm easy to find there.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you put out some great content that helps leaders as well. So definitely go and check out Ross over on LinkedIn. And thank you so much for joining me here today, Ross. I've loved hearing your business journey from, start to now, the next 12 months are going to be really big for you. So it's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Amy. Good to chat.
You're welcome.